At 11 this morning at Community Kitchen on East 11th Street will be the Summer Cares event, in which there will be piles of boxes of necessaries being given away to homeless people. It is hoped many among them will be military veterans who are without a regular place to stay, without a domicile, without an address. This is David Tulis. We're glad that you're giving us a couple minutes of your time here on the David Tulis program, David Tulis Show, at Nooga Radio 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4, live on Facebook, of course, at Nooga Radio. That's Nooga Radio, brought to you by Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. This morning, my post is on ex nihilo authority, which is to say authority from nowhere, and it touches on a review I'm making of the Department of Safety and Homeland Security and the means by which it suspends the licenses, that suspends the driving privileges, as they're called, of people who have never applied for said privilege in the state. And this is a remarkable exercise of power that has, as I understand it, no legal authority, given my review of the statute, no legal authority to do that, and yet it's done all the time. Things like that are done routinely by the good people in Nashville and in Washington, just activity, actions without authority. This is something we just almost have gotten used to, and we really almost pay it no mind at all. So Summer Cares is at Community Kitchen this morning at 11 to 12:30. My name is David Tulis. Make sure you drop in, maybe come with a box, bring a few gifts to pass out to others. Again, 11 o'clock this morning, East 11th Street, the Community Kitchen. And Summer Cares, an event that we've been promoting here, an effort, a private, voluntary effort to help homeless military men and women in Chattanooga. We have on the phone Fletcher Armstrong. He is the director of the Center for BioEthical Reform in Chattanooga. And I want to ask you, Fletcher, about the work of your organization. It is a shocking endeavor, if you will, and the goal is to have a reform in medicine and a reform in ethics. What is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish with these very stark presentations? What are these presentations, and why should my listener care?
Well, we're trying to reform what's in the hearts of men and women around this country who are either complicit or complacent about the killing of preborn children. And properly understood, as a Christian, we say that this is child sacrifice. This is sacrificing a human being on the altar of a pagan god. And the Bible over and over again, if you care about that, it says that God judges a nation that kills its own children. But even people who don't necessarily care about the Bible do care about injustice. There are a lot of people who, you don't have to be a Christian to know that killing Jews is wrong, enslaving black men and women is wrong, and in fact killing our own unborn children is wrong. And so what we are doing is simply showing people the truth, because when people see the truth, then they reason to a different conclusion. And most of, unfortunately, the pro-life movement in large measure is cooperating with the abortion industry to cover up how evil abortion really is. Most people have a sense that abortion is wrong, but until they see it, they have no idea how wrong it actually is. And so what we're doing is showing people the truth about it. We go to college campuses. We have outreaches that are targeted to the general public. And each of these outreaches features large aborted baby images shown in public areas so that people will have a chance to see for themselves what it is and make up their own mind.
Well, give an example of paint a picture of one of your posters or two of your posters. What is it that you're showing among the deceased?
Well, what we have on these huge pictures, and they can be as large as 22 feet long and 7 feet high on the side of a truck, and it'll at its core is a piece is an image of an aborted baby. These images come from abortion clinics. They're human babies aborted usually in the first trimester of pregnancy, and then we'll use other images to give that picture some context. So, for example, we have a sign that says dehumanization. Genocide depends on dehumanizing the victim. And so we have a picture of the aborted baby and how this baby is dehumanized. We call it products of conception, massive cells, blob of tissue. But we also dehumanize black people when we enslave them. We call them, we had words to use to describe them that were dehumanizing.
They were property.
The language that the Nazis used to dehumanize their victims. They didn't call them people. They called them rats, pigs, vermin, Untermensch, which in German means subhuman. So we give context to our views about abortion by showing how those views as a society mirror views that we've had of other groups when we victimize those groups historically.
Now, your group has been working out of Knoxville since 2000, so it's 17 years old, and we're talking with Fletcher Armstrong, who's the director of Center for BioEthical Reform. Your group had been invited to Chattanooga at UTC in 2011.
Right.
Now, what kind of things do volunteers such as Jane Bullington and others hear when they come to university campuses such as UTC's? Most recently in Tennessee, you were at ETSU, that's East Tennessee State University. What kind of comments do you get? What kind of angry feedback do some of your volunteers receive?
Well, it really amounts to one thing that they say. They say to us, "Say we slew them not. Say we slew them not." And I'm reading from an argument that Robert Jackson made before the tribunal in Nuremberg with the Nazi war criminals. And they had spent, Robert Jackson was chief prosecutor for at the trial, and he was also representing the United States. And they had just spent months summarizing all this evidence against the defendants. And on July 26, 1946, he stood up to summarize that evidence, and he took several hours to do that. And when he was finished with the summary, he said to the court, he said, "It is against such a background that these defendants now ask this tribunal to say that they are not guilty of planning, executing, or conspiring to commit this long list of crimes and wrongs. They stand before the record of this trial as blood-stained Gloucester stood by the body of his slain king." He's referring to a Shakespeare play. "He begged of the widow, as they beg of you, say I slew them not. And the queen replied, then say they were not slain, but dead they are." And that's exactly what they do. They point to the pictures and they say we're not guilty of murder here. And we point to the pictures and say, well, then say they are not slain, but dead they are. And so that's where it starts. So they have some reason to try to justify why it's okay to kill an unborn child. And we just listen to their reasoning and we explain to them, the logical fallacies that are embedded in their arguments.
Well, what's one of the main logical fallacies that the pro-abortion visitor of your display at a university such as UTC says? What are the main two, perhaps?
Well, they'll try to question whether or not it's even a human being. They'll say, well, we don't know when life begins, and that's totally false. I mean, any embryology textbook will tell you that a human being's life begins at the moment of conception. In fact, we can pull quotes from famous pro-abortion authors, people like Peter Singer and David Boonin, who agree with us that the human being's life begins at the moment of conception. It is a living human being from that moment on. And they'll even try to discount that. They'll try to say, well, that was written 5 years ago, so that can't be relevant to today. According to teenagers, the world didn't start until they were, came 10 or 11 years old.
What about the record of genetics? Does that support your pro-life position, Fletcher Armstrong?
Well, I mean, it supports the idea that a human being is the unborn child is a human being. There's two questions. There's the science question of when does life begin. That question's been answered, and they try to hide behind that question as if it hasn't been answered, but it has. But then there's the philosophical question of when is life important, whose life is important, and that can't be answered by science. That's the philosophical question. So we engage people on the science question, but we also engage them on the philosophical question of when is life important. And we challenge people to say, okay, when do you think in the life of a human being, when do you think it's no longer okay to kill a human being? And a lot of people will say, well, at birth, but a lot of people will say, well, at the end of the first trimester. And so we challenge both of those. But for example, when they say at the end of the first trimester, we say, well, in that case, you agree with us that abortion should not be legal in the second and third trimester, and so you agree with us that the current law is immoral and wrong. But let's talk about the first trimester. You say it should be okay to kill them before they're 3 months old. So what's the difference in that human baby at 2 months and 29 days and at 3 months and 1 day? Now, there's only 2 days worth of difference. Why do you say it's okay to kill them at one point but not the other? And they don't have an answer, so they say, well, you got to pick a line. You got to pick something somewhere. And our answer to that is no, you don't. Every time you draw a line and you say people on that side of the line can be killed and people on this side of the line must be protected, every time we do that, we get ourselves in trouble. At CBR, we don't draw a line. We say every human life is important. Every human life is valuable, and you shouldn't be drawing lines to decide which human beings may be killed and which human beings must be protected.
Now, point
out the fact that not only do we get ourselves in trouble when we do that, that's exactly the same kind of line that was drawn 200 years ago when we said it was okay to enslave black people. It's the same kind of line that was drawn in Germany and Eastern Europe that said people that are not Aryan on that side of the Aryan boundary may be killed and their lands confiscated, but people on this side of the boundary are human beings worthy of having their rights such that they were in that society. And not only that, the people who draw the lines tend to put themselves on the protected side, and they always put other people on the unprotected side. And the people that they put on the unprotected side are generally people who either have something that the people in power want, or they're just simply in the way. They're in the way of German domination. They're in the way of the Germans wanted the living space for themselves,
Lebensraum.
And the people that lived there in Eastern Europe were in the way, so they just rounded them up and killed them.
Right. There's no lobby defending the unborn. Now, Fletcher Armstrong of CBR Center for BioEthical Reform, we have had in the Chattanooga data gathered by by Governor Haslam and his executive branch. There were in 2015 about 151 women who reside in Hamilton County who destroyed their children in that year. The state figure is past 9,000. So it seems that even though we are a metropolitan area, that there's been a removal, I would suggest, of God's hand of judgment against the city, which kills fewer of its own children, or which sees in its boundaries fewer women killing their own children than in very dark places such as Memphis, where the black population is being strip mined of unborn boys and girls by Planned Parenthood and other organizations. God has, in His blessing of this one city in Tennessee, has lifted the claim of despair in neighborhoods and apartment complexes across Chattanooga and Hamilton County.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, God judges a nation that kills its own children. And you bring up a good point about what Planned Parenthood is doing to the black community. The Black Lives Matter people like to talk about, restricting or suppressing the black vote. We have a total outreach that's devoted to African-American men and women, and we're beginning now to have a presence outside the African-American History Museum on the mall in Washington, D.C. We'll have a regular presence there with signs that will point out to the fact that, for example, Planned Parenthood has done more to suppress the black vote than the KKK, poll taxes, any of the things that they accuse that have happened or even been accused that have happened to suppress the black vote. Planned Parenthood has done way more by orders of magnitude to suppress the black vote than any of these other activities.
And it has done so with the support of the federal government to the tune of about $500 million, according to the last annual financial report of that nonprofit charity, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, this is David Tulis. We do thank you for joining us. Make note that at 11 this morning at the Community Kitchen on East 11th Street, there'll be kind of a fete, a little festival, giving away of charity boxes to homeless men and women, primarily those who are known to have some military background. They have the status of veteran. They may be on the VA medical payroll or the VA benefit payroll in some form. And Summer Cares is a little program by Summer Essex, who's a student at Alpine Crest Elementary School, and her mom, Chrissy, and a program that began in November, gathering up shoe boxes, inside of which are all kinds of things from hand warmers to baby wipes for sanitary reasons, and Bibles and toothbrushes and toothpaste and the like. These boxes will be given away today through lunchtime, ending at about 12:30 at the Community Kitchen on East 11th Street. Do think about dropping by. You, my listener, the man who matters. You can bring a check if you like, or if you have some items you'd like to give away in a last-minute venture, do drop by the Community Kitchen today. And we, Nooga Radio, will be there. Mike will be there. We're brought to you by Nooganomics.com, the David Tulis Show, and that event, Summer Cares, pushed and promoted by our radio station, which is Nooga Radio 92.7 FM and 95.3 HD4, high definition 4. Now, we've got on the phone Fletcher Armstrong, PhD. He's the director of Center for BioEthical Reform. Now, my question for you, Fletcher, is this: what do we need to have happen between you and one person here in Chattanooga who would like to bring CBR's display back to UTC? You were here in 2011, made quite an impression on many students, and broke the heart, I dare say, of at least one student whose heart was just torn in pieces by seeing these displays of shredded babies with their fingers and their eyes and their joints and their heels and legs, all cut to pieces by the mercies of the abortion doctor. What has to happen to get your display back in Chattanooga?
Well, every time
Fletcher.
we do this display, it's a steady stream of people who walk by and say, "You've changed my mind about this. We know babies' lives are saved. That's not a guess on our part. We hear it all the time." We need two things. We need a student there who's willing to say, "Yes, I will invite you," and it just takes one. And we need people to help fund it. I mean, if you can go to our website, you go to the Southeast website and donate there. It's just simply prolifeoncampus.com, prolifeoncampus.com, prolifeoncampus.com. If you want to make an online donation, it costs us about $6,000 to come to a school for 2 days. I mean, that's buying a whole team of people, staff and volunteers, about 10 people for 2 solid days on a campus. And people will remember what they saw forever. I mean, those images just never go away. So many people have told me, I saw those images 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they've never left my mind. And you can have a huge impact on your campus, and it's a very small investment. A lot of times people will spend thousands of dollars to bring a speaker who will speak to 100 people or 50 people in a room, and it's generally people that already agree with our side. And a week later, people don't even remember what the man talked about or what she talked about. It was female.
All right, so that's the point for you, my listener.
On the campus, I mean, everybody sees them, especially the people who are not on our side, the people who most need to see them, and they see them by the tens of thousands, and they don't forget. So it's a huge return on your investment. We've been using these pictures in Poland, and we've been able to actually get them on billboards along major highways in Poland. And just in a few months, we've swung public opinion by 6-8 percentage points.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Fletcher Armstrong of Center for BioEthical Reform. And here's what he's proposing: that you, my listener, support this effort.
Is to say, I'll help too, and you can just simply go to prolifeoncampus.com. You can find the donation page and drain your bank account. Okay,
so here's what has to happen. We have to have a donor. Altogether, it's $6,000. You have 10 people here for 2 days. Prolifeoncampus.com. That's prolifecampus.com. And there has to be one student who's a student at the university. So that's a UTC student. He needs to make an invitation to Fletcher Armstrong. And just contact me if you want the contact information. But again, the group is Center for BioEthical Reform, based in Knoxville. And it's the group was here in 2011. And there needs to be an invitation, A, and B, some financial support of this effort. $6,000 is what's required to get 10 people, including volunteers and I guess at least one paid staff person, to Chattanooga to have these horrifying, shocking displays that shock the conscience. And that's the purpose of them. Fletcher Armstrong, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
This is David Tulis. We are here at Nooga Radio, brought to you by Nooganomics.com. And I am the man with the bow tie, the smartest guy with the bow tie in Chattanooga. Really, that's just a bit of marketing fluff for the man who's the slow man in Chattanooga. That's what I am, who I am. I ask the slow man questions, and often these are the ones that matter. These are the ones that get results, to get people thinking in the right direction. And again, prolifeoncampus.com. We need an invitation and a bit of cash flow to get Fletcher Armstrong and his group, the Center for BioEthical Reform, back into Chattanooga. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news talk leader, Nooga Radio.